It has now officially been a full 2 years since the PlayStation 5 initially came out. Now, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, a lot of these consoles, they like to do revisions. Typically, after a couple years of a system being out, we get some sort of update to it, whether it is something like the PlayStation 2 Mini, things like the Game Boy Advance getting a Game Boy Advanced SP. Even back in the day, we saw different versions of things like the Sega Genesis. And it's starting to seem like the PlayStation 5 Slim is coming this year. In fact, it may even be coming out in a couple months, but there's something about it that's a bit weird. Let's talk about that. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, if you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Real quick, before we actually dig into the nitty-gritty details, I do want to do a giant shout out to my good buddy RGT85. He's currently in the hospital. He was not feeling great this weekend. He decided to get checked out, and now they're holding him for some tests. Sean, I love you very much, bro. We're all rooting for you. Just, you know, honestly, you're in a tough circumstance. It's definitely spooky to be stuck there in a hospital, but let's talk about some video games. There have been a ton of rumors about this supposed PlayStation 5 Slim coming out for the last couple months. People sort of reporting on the idea, the design, the schematics of it. And now we have a new report that claims the whole idea behind it is that the PlayStation 5 Slim is going to basically be a PlayStation 5 all-digital edition, so it won't have a disc drive, and instead they're going to sell you a disc drive separately, where you'll buy the console, and then if you want, there will be a external peripheral that you can plug into probably one of the USB ports. But here's the weird part of it. The disc drive is not going to work on the current PlayStation 5 all-digital edition. So maybe it won't plug into the USB. Maybe it's going to actually have like a connector port on the back of it. Now, understandably, people are extremely shocked, but the main circumstance, the main idea behind this is it seems like this new console is going to replace both versions of the PlayStation 5. This thing is probably going to be the new standard edition. There will no longer be a disc drive edition and a discless edition. All of them will be the PS5 Slim. Now, this sounds extremely strange at the surface level, just because, honestly, I feel like the PlayStation 5 is selling so great. Why would you try and take away a feature to it? My thinking, according to these reports, it definitely seems like the idea behind this is possibly that the console is going to be a lot cheaper. I bet this PlayStation 5 Slim is maybe going to be like $375, and then the external hard drive will be like an additional $50. I guess making it so it would be just the tiniest bit cheaper than like an Xbox Series X. Try and get it closer to the price point of the Series S while still packing the power of the PlayStation 5 itself. Now, they have clarified in reports this will not have any major hardware changes, meaning this is not going to have downgraded visuals, it's not going to have worse graphics, and I'm not saying this to insult the Xbox Series S, but there is a power difference between the Series X and the Series S. It sounds like it is still going to be a current-gen PlayStation 5, just without the disc drive to it, and probably with the internals being reworked to make the console slightly smaller and cheaper for Sony themselves to produce. But what I found interesting is that people here are kind of like, okay, this seems like very surprising. Why would they do this? Apparently, according to Sony, it's sort of going to be considered the Gen 2 of the PlayStation 5, an update. It's something to sort of replace the current parts that maybe are more expensive, to make the entire process of making PlayStation 5s just a lot more streamlined. Now, in the past, when Sony has done this, their revisions have always been great. I think the PS1 Mini was good. The upgrades to the PSP, I'm a huge PlayStation Portable fanatic, and honestly, back in the day, they released these updated versions that gave it, well, the buttons were the same, the graphics were the same, but they increased the screen resolution, and it looked so much better. I think that this is an interesting idea, but I'm still just a little bit lost about whether this gamble will pay off. Coming out in September of this year, I guess what I am most curious about is how much this is going to increase the adoption rate. As it currently stands, the PlayStation 5 is just selling extremely fast. Pretty much every single console they make, the second it's produced, it's already got a price tag on it and it's flying out the door. So I guess my thought is that when I hear these reports, I believe that they're trying to sort of future-proof the sales numbers. I think that as people start to actually get the PlayStation 5s, right now they've sold 30 million of the consoles. I think that there is going to be a point where once it starts to get to maybe around 50 million consoles sold, usually that's when things start to slow down a bit. Typically, you start to reach market saturation. All the day one adopters, the hype cycle, everybody who's lining up to get those big consoles for the big exclusives, that's usually when sales start to slope off. I think they're trying to, as quickly as possible, reduce the cost of both the production, so the consoles they make give them more profit, and I think they do want to try and make these systems as cheap as possible to, if anything, have those sales numbers go up even more. This generation, I think, is very much just getting started, and personally, I do believe the rumors that we're going to get a PlayStation 5 Pro probably in something like 2025, and that's a bigger gap than Sony usually does. I mean, the gap from the PlayStation 4, then we got the PS4 Slim, and then the PS4 Pro was pretty relatively quick. But I've heard the reason we got the PlayStation 4 Pro so freaking fast was because apparently Sony did not realize how fast PlayStation 4s would sort of hit that wall where a bunch of people were buying 4K TVs and the original PlayStation 4 just could not even get close to upscaling of checkerboard 4K. And I've heard that the whole reason they really kind of rushed out the PlayStation 4 Pro was because they wanted to try and have some sort of closer bit of graphical fidelity, closer resolution parity than what they had at the time. I think that since the PlayStation 5 already has 4K capabilities, it already has very good graphics in a lot of these games, I think they're going to be a bit slower with the release of a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I don't believe they're going to call it the Pro again. I think that selling point, the PS4 Pro, that worked, but the PlayStation 5 generation, I think they're going to sort of copy the idea and marketing of the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch, they keep calling it the family of consoles, where the Nintendo Switch OLED versus the Nintendo Switch Lite, none of these consoles is better, none of these consoles is worse. I think Sony probably, they like that idea. They like that, okay, we can have a bunch of different styles of the PlayStation 5, but they all play the same games. They all have the same experience. They're all in 4K. Just maybe if you get the Pro, you get better frame rates and somehow maybe even slightly better resolution. I am excited to see the official reveal of the PlayStation 5 Slim, but I think it's still going to possibly be held off for a bit longer. I think they're probably going to wait till the last of these PlayStation 5 sales start to really ebb. Once the holiday season really started to peter off, everybody gets done spending their holiday gift cards and stuff, I think that's when we'll realistically see the reveal of the PlayStation 5 Slim. I do want to end this video with a very funny thing, which is that a couple weeks ago, I did this poll where when CES was happening, so this was 12 days ago, there were rumors that they might show up with the PlayStation 5 Slim, and I said, do you think it will be there? And my options were, yes, it'll be there, no, it will not be there, and I doubt it exists. I have to say, I am extremely kind of blown away by the fact that, hundreds and hundreds of people said they doubt it exists. I guess we're going to find out pretty soon. If this console doesn't exist, a lot of leakers are going to be taking the L on this one. But as it currently stands, I fully believe the PlayStation 5 Slim is coming out this year, and I think we're going to be seeing it very, very quickly. But what do you think? Are you excited for the PlayStation 5 Pro? Are you excited for the PlayStation 5 Slim? Do you have a PlayStation 5? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. If you haven't watched it, I did do a video talking about the Last of Us TV show. Short and sweet. I love it.